keynote speakers taking notes for the season. Team leaders are speaking and peeping, I'm preaching, not a deacon. I'm a mic man, I'm on the right track, so I don't need Jesus. That's just facetious performance peaking. I'll be alright, fam.
Okay, welcome to podcast number 3, and we have with us in the studio Wayne Carl from Demolition Fight Series, my good friend and the world's sports promoter.
It's a little bit different for me. Normally on your side and interviewing people, so thanks for having me on, and this is a little bit different, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's different being on the other side. Thanks for coming in, because I know you travelled a fair distance to get here.
Yeah, this is the other side of the world for me. It was like going to New Zealand from Melbourne, but no.
I get that a lot. All my friends seem to live on the other side.
Well, coming from Bacchus Marsh to Beaconsfield, it's, especially at this time of night, but I'm sure it's going to be worth it.
You'll have a smoother ride home. All right, so we do appreciate you being in here. For those people who don't know you that are watching, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So MMA-wise, I've been a lifelong UFC fan. And what actually happened and why I got involved in local MMA was my football club. The Carlton Football Club didn't win a game for about 10 years. Oh. And I was really frustrated with it. The day everything changed and I started to really get into local MMA, I had about 30 friends. We're all going to go over to Adelaide and watch the Carlton Football Club play. And 28 of them pulled out. And me and the other bloke thought, well, you know what, we don't really want to travel together and have a romantic weekend away. So I woke up in the morning, my wife seen how frustrated I was, and she was getting a little bit frustrated with I was going away on these weekends, supposed to be relaxing, and I'd come back even more upset. So I woke up and she'd booked. So New Zealand had their first UFC event. So I woke up and here was a ticket. The accommodation and the airfares, and my wife just said, you know what, you love combat sports, get out there and watch it. So going from that, I went into MMA Freaks as an admin, started writing about MMA, started covering the local scene with DFC, Hex, AFC, all the locals, XFC, and I thought, you know what, I really love writing about it, love doing podcasts and things like that. And then I went to Hex one day, and the Ballarat boys travelled to Hex, and I sat back and I thought, we really need some local MMA on my side of town. It was a massive gap. We have so many gyms that weren't getting the opportunity to represent themselves, their family, and their gyms. And I thought, well, you know what? Why don't I start my own MMA promotion with the help of my wife? And that's pretty much how Demolition Fight Series was born.
Pretty much one of the only shows up that end, especially amateur-wise. There is a few kickboxing shows and so forth, and Muay Thai, but we don't really see much MMA, especially amateur MMA.
Yeah, and of course, Demolition Fight Series, we do have 4 or 5 pros. And
so it's a pro-am event?
It is a pro-am event. We want to create an actual series that guys win and start as amateurs and then end up fighting pro for us.
What's the difference for those who don't know? What if I'm going to watch an amateur fight or I'm going to watch the pros? What's the difference?
So when you're looking at it, it doesn't look much different other than in Victoria you need shin guards and you've got 6-ounce gloves, not 4-ounce gloves. There is a few different technical things that you have to look for, no knees to the head, elbows on the ground and things like that in amateurs. But for people just watching it, an amateur fight for me is just as exciting as professional. At Demolition 1, probably 2 or 3 of the best fights were the amateurs because they get in there. And in saying that, one of your sponsored athletes, Troy Fumo, is obviously our champion, and his
one of the best fights
that was one of the best fights I've ever seen. Whether you like the UFC or whether you like local, that was one of the best fights I've ever seen. And I always say to people that like UFC and stub their nose at local is the best seat at the UFC is way back. My worst seat in the venue. You're never, ever going to get that close to the UFC. So you spend $50, $75, $100 at my event, you are within meters of the cage. You don't get that at the UFC. So hence the reason I fell in love with the local sport because, it's real and they're so accessible and you can reach out and talk to them.
I won't even go to the UFC unless a ticket arises because you're so far back, you're pretty much watching the screen anyway. Yeah. And every amateur event I've been to, be it Demolition, be it Hex, After Hex, you get right up there.
Yeah.
And it's a much better experience on my behalf.
I love the crowd. Obviously I've done a lot of events with XFC up in Queensland. The crowd's made up of friends, family, and gym members. So you get a different feel because you go and watch the UFC and you see those guys from a distance, other than the local guys that we've seen come through. But the other guys are, when they come from America and things like that, you don't really know them and they're not accessible. Whereas when you sit in a Demolition Fight Series, you're sitting next to someone's mum and you feel the tension and the excitement and the noise at around, I'll name it, Jacob Prosser versus Dylan Milich. That was the peak of our event. That's when the most people were in there, and I couldn't believe how loud the Sunshine Italian Club was.
Yeah, they get crazy. And there's a few guys with absolutely massive following.
Yes.
Massive following. Like one of our boys, Corey Reeves.
Yep. Brings
the house down.
Yep.
And you will not hear that kind of support at a pro, like UFC event or one like that. It's like they're all there just for him. And pretty much that's what it is. But they're all there to see him. But I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
At one of his fights, and it's like there were a lot of fighters. One particular fight, I was sitting cage side at the first Demolition, and one of the fights we had the family right behind us, and the mum was going crazy, and the sister was going crazy, and it must be amazing to have that kind of support.
Yeah,
and so close to the cage, like you're not going to get that.
And shout out to all the guys that put it on the line. It would be so hard to step in, and an MMA cage can be unforgiving, and you've got all your friends, your family, you're live on MMA stream. You go out there and you're 0-0, and then all of a sudden you've got all the lights, camera action, off you go. So I've got a lot of respect for guys that are 0-2, 0-3. Hey, they've done more than me.
Yeah, look, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
I share that respect that you have for the fighters, because you close that door and you leave everything in there.
Yeah.
And would you say it's what, 1 or 2, less than 1% of the world?
Correct.
That has the nuts to go in there. And
that's something as a promoter that I try to keep myself grounded, that without the fighters, I don't have a promotion. So a lot of people say, we're a fighter promotion, but I believe that we are. We're not in it for profit and things like that. There's not a hell of a lot of money in MMA. So I'm actually doing it for the fighters. And I can honestly say that we're not there for profit. We actually created this fight series to give a pathway to all those kids on our side of town that weren't getting a go. So if you only have 4 or 5 events in Melbourne, guys were going over to New South Wales, WA to get fights. They're not fighting in front of their family. So some of these guys will only ever have one fight. So why not provide it?
Yeah, it's a very good opportunity. And I got a lot of positive feedback from your show, be it from coaches, be it from fighters, and they were really happy with the way they were treated. It was a fighter's show. And I heard that from some people that are pretty high up and well known in the scene. So
that's not me, because everyone knows I might be the promoter, but I'm not the boss. Shout out to my wife, Lisa Carl. She's clearly the boss.
Yes.
She was the one that looked after the guys upstairs with some help. And shout out to my team as well. So it wasn't just about me. I've got a hell of a lot of support. Fight Kingdom, we'll mention that a little bit later. I've got some great people that support me. So.
Why you and I click and we get along is we share that care factor for the fighters.
Yep.
Like, Fight Kingdom is not a major brand. It will be. We'll get there, but I put a lot back into local fighters.
Yep.
I try and put back into local shows, because there's not going to be a feeling as good as seeing these guys make it big time.
Correct.
Giving them the right foundation, giving them the right platform to show themselves, taking care of them, and making sure they come back because it's a good environment. You don't want to scare off a kid that's, having his first fight. He's like, no, that's not for me. I wasn't treated right. You treat them good, give them the great platform, the support, the care. Now, at the end of the day, they're tough guy fighters.
Yep.
They're still people.
And I look at some of the people that fought on the first show. Mark Grayson went to Gamma and won. Mark Grayson will get to one, or Bellator or anything like that. He is high level. And I actually I thanked him for fighting on my show, because when he makes it and amongst others that are coming up in the next show, there's a lot of people that I believe have a massive future in the sport. And I can look back when they actually make it to the big leagues. I can say, you know what, he debuted or he fought on my show, and that's something that I'm looking forward to.
That's an incomparable feeling.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll look forward to it. And there's a lot of talent coming through.
Yeah.
So we definitely will see a couple of guys hit one and see. And like you said, it's going to be great to say, hey, we watched them, grassroots, at our show, and now they're showing the world what Aussie MMA can do.
Yeah, and look, a lot of people can look at Demolition Fight Series and say, oh, he's just a fanboy trying to run it. Well, you know what? I am a fanboy, but you know
You're
what?
the biggest fanboy.
And you know what? I can say that hand on heart that, yes, I'm a fanboy of every single fighter. I don't have favourites. I pretty much will support anybody that steps in that cage. So if people want to say, oh, I'm a fanboy, but you know what? It's coming from the right spot. I'm also a businessman. So mix a fanboy with a business person. And I think we've got a big future. Well, I hope I've got a big future. Things are looking great. Our next show's on April 18th, and we've already filled the card. And we're pretty excited. The amount of nominations we had for a second show was amazing. And shout out to Brian Ebersole, who's done a great job.
Does he still have the arrow?
He doesn't. He's one hairy man. But while we're talking, my three major sponsors have enabled me to actually do certain things, and that's Rogue Inc., True Value Homes, and Fight Kingdom. We've got some smaller ones underneath those, but with the help of your three guys, and look, you don't get too much out of it yet. The way I look at it, at our 4th, 5th, 6th show, I'm hoping that Fight Kingdom can see that they're on the right team, and away you go.
Oh, we already see that. We want to grow together.
Yeah.
No one just jumps the gun and goes to the very top.
Correct.
And it's all about having the right people with you, having the right team, having a good plan, caring about people, remaining honest, hardworking, and eventually we'll all get there.
We're going to have 3 shows this year. The way I look at it is you want to crawl before you walk. So 1 last year, 2 this year, 3 next year. We're going to sit around that 3. And again, it's all about the platform for the Victorian guys. We're going to have 34 fighters on the next show, and 29 of them are going to be Victorian. On the first show, we had 26 fighters, and 23 were Victorian. It's Victorian first, and we always like to fly in some other guys, give them an opportunity if they're not going to go in the other states.
Have you had a crack yourself? Have you done any sort of fighting?
I was no good, but I grew up playing AFL. So I boxed, did a little bit of kickboxing, a little bit of karate with a head this size. I don't know about you, but I couldn't really move my head. It was a good target. So the head's always been. Look, I love boxing, so I really miss the explosion of MMA. I'm 41 years old, so I quit boxing before I was 20, and that's pretty much when MMA was starting to explode. I'd love to have done BJJ. I'd love to have done wrestling. Everything about mixed martial arts I look at, and I think, geez, I missed that. And I did box a fair bit, but I really look back and think, geez, I'd love to do.
You didn't watch the first UFCs, like UFC 1, 2, 3?
Yep, I watched those, but I probably started around UFC 6 or 7, and then I went back, and my introduction was, the old Tough Man on the VHS, and you used to watch them out at Festival Hall. I reckon I hired that 6 or 7 times, and then I started watching the UFC, and I just thought, this is amazing. And so watching the sport grow, it's been a good journey, and it's
changed
something I've enjoyed.
It's changed a bit since then.
Yeah.
Out of all the top shows in the world, so we're talking UFC, Bellator, and ONE, in my opinion. That obviously PFL and other shows as well.
PFL are coming,
Who would you consider to be the best show?
UFC.
Yeah?
Yeah, look, the only one with the potential, I believe, to overtake them is ONE championship. I don't believe Bellator can. I think there's always going to be a market for more than one, because you look at everybody else, and they do have ex-UFC fighters, but if you're going to be the best at something, you need to fight the best, and I believe the UFC are strategic with who they sign and who they don't, and I believe that know who they can let their brand, other than DJ, which was really, really strange. But you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe DJ was really hard to deal with.
Man, look at all the money they made off Askren, though. Like, he got knocked the fuck out. That made Masvidal.
It did. But
I don't think Masvidal would have been as big if Askren didn't talk all that shit and draw attention to the fight.
No. Look, Masvidal has been around for so long. And if you go back and watch a lot of his fights early, he was losing by split decision because he wasn't finishing fights.
Yeah.
So as much as you think Ashkan, whatever his name is, helped him, he actually helped himself by starting to finish fights because he was fighting safe. By his own admission, he wasn't looking for the finish. And he thought, you know what, if I'm going to get paid big and move along, that started with the Till knockout. Looking forward to the next fight.
So let me take that question on a different angle. Which one is the best fighters show?
I love one.
Yeah.
And
that's what I want. That's what I was fishing. I was fishing for one.
Yeah, being a midget. So if it's not about money, like if you want to go just pure show and matchups and things like that.
I'm talking about how they're treated, how they're matched up.
Yeah, I think it'd be like I don't know too much. Look, I've heard stories about both.
I think it's more of a martial arts show one.
Yeah.
It's got that respect factor. There's not that shit talking. There's not the show. And I love the UFC. It's made us all the fans that we are.
Yep.
But I think pure martial arts wise,
yep.
I think one's the more purest show.
Do you say that because of who they give title shots to and they ignore everything and it's just fan or money driven? Is that where you're coming from?
I'm getting really shitty with the UFC. Just rankings don't mean shit. If you're a superstar, you jump the queue.
Yep.
Like, they're saying Conor gets a title shot next and, against Khabib.
Yep.
And they haven't even considered the fact that he's fighting the scariest motherfucker on the planet. So, they're overlooking all the facts, all the obstacles, saying, oh, there's this money fight, this is what's going to happen for the title. And it kind of puts me off. And I stopped watching the UFC for about 2 years.
Yep. And
then I came back during the Conor McGregor area. And then it's improved a lot since.
I do want to see that fight, though.
You do?
Yeah.
You want to see Khabib and Conor fight again?
Yep.
Khabib smashes him.
That's why I want to watch it.
All day long.
That's why I want to watch it.
Yeah. The only real threat, I think, is Ferguson.
Yep.
And this is me regurgitating information I've heard from another, podcast, but I think the only way he gets stopped is by a cut.
Elbows from the bottom?
Yeah. That's not what I came up with, but it's something I agree with.
I think his unorthodox style, he'll be able to catch Khabib with something.
He can catch anyone with anything.
He does get hit, though. I think, his biggest threat, Tony's, if he gets past Khabib, I actually think McGregor is a tough matchup because of his power early and that left hand. And you look at Cerrone, and he had some good moments against Tony, which worries me because he's hittable. And as much as I'm not a fan of McGregor, I do respect that power. You've seen what he did to Donald Cerrone, and Cerrone. So MMA math doesn't work. No. I understand that. So I'm sure there's going to be comments going, MMA math. I know it doesn't work. But there's some interesting things to come.
All right. Let's bring it back to the local scene.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned earlier you've got April 18 venue.
Yep. Is Club Italia in Sunshine. Great event. So the Juventus Feeder Club. So shout out to those guys. They've been amazing to deal with.
It was a beautiful venue.
Yep.
It was the way, and it suits fights.
Yeah. It's loud.
It's loud. You can see it well from everywhere. The staff were great.
Yep. The
whole venue was very presentable. It was a good venue for fun.
The food was amazing too.
I didn't get to eat. I was so busy.
For those that don't know, he was on the cage door. He got a late call up because someone called in sick. But thank you for that.
No, it was good. We get to watch it really up and close.
Yeah, you had a fair seat.
Yeah, it was a good seat. Now, who we got lined up? Who's going to be the ones to watch on this show? Obviously, you being the fair promoter, I know you love everybody, but who are we looking out for? Now, my boy Troy's on the card.
So I can announce it now. I know
you can
we
say
wanted to do this. We've been holding back the poster. Troy Fumo versus Jason Gunnawan out of Absolute. That is a cracking fight. 4-2 versus 3-1. Don't worry about what Tapology says. Troy Fumo is in the top 3 or 4 flyweights in Australia, and Jason's not far behind him. This is going to be a cracking fight. This is one of the best flyweight matchups I've seen. Yeah, you have a look at Demolition 1 and you had Rids, and that was a cracking fight. If you haven't watched it, jump on YouTube. We just released it yesterday. Have a look at that fight and look out for the armbar.
Oh.
It was amazing, and you'll hear two of the best commentators screaming at their top of their lungs, and Rids just doesn't tap. So jump on and have a look at that.
Yeah, make sure you got a strong stomach for that armbar.
True. We've also got Trent Carter coming in against Tawny Mitchell, who is trained by Callum Potter. That is 6-0 versus 2-0 for the featherweight Demolition amateur title. We've got some amazing pros to announce. I'm not going to give you those, but we've got some amazing fighters. So out of the 26 fighters that actually fought on the first one, you try to get about 50% renominate. We got 95% of the people on that first show renominate back to Ebersol and say, I want to be on Demolition. So that was a big tick, especially for Brian, because he was easy to deal with. But yeah, a tick for us and my team and everybody that actually contributed.
There's a lot of work go into it behind the scenes with posters.
I get my posters done in England, so shout out to Chris. So he does all that. So all I do is just flick over the photos. The biggest time lapse is doing, you got to do your contracts. You need to organise the venue. You need to go out there and get insurance, the cage, everything to do with MMA comes through the promoter. And I'm lucky I've got a wife that does all my ticketing and everything like that. So that's interesting because, we both like to be right. So we have some great conversations about how we do our tickets, but you just let the wife win and just go, you know what, you do what you want to do. I'll just deliver the tickets.
You're a wise man.
Look, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but I've got some great people. Jeff, shout out to Jeff, and Luke. They're my two right-hand men that anything that I need done, those two boys, and they're the ushers that walk everybody to the cage. You would have met them. They've been amazing. So if I need anything, I've got a great team around me.
Now, before you got into promoting yourself, I actually met you through one of the forums online.
Yep.
And you were really supportive of Fight Kingdom, even though you had no idea who we are. We've appreciated that from day one.
Yep.
But you support all the locals, and you always have. Yep. You've done media, you've done shout-outs, you've done your own podcast on like your T-shirt right now.
Yep. So one of the fighters sent me this Crazy Horse, which is Caleb Rideout in New South Wales. So if any other fighters want to send me some T-shirts, hit me up.
Extra small.
Extra large, actually. I'm built like a box. I'm as tall as I am wide.
So, what's missing in the scene? Like, what's missing, especially in the MMA local scene, the amateur scene?
Exposure. Simple answer.
Because
exposure. I obviously flew people down to do the pay-per-view. And I'm pretty active on Facebook. Everybody watching this would see all my posts.
Yeah, pretty sick of you.
That's okay. Well, you need to do it though. And you know what? If one poster I sell 2 tickets, well, it's worth it. And then that's pretty much the way that we look at it. And it is pretty consistent.
What are we going to change to have the same 400 faces at every event?
I want people to come to watch Demolition Fight Series. And this is regurgitating something that I learnt off somebody else. And that's Wombat Jones. Is that you want people, at the moment, we're selling to just gyms, people that know the fighters. So they will come in, and if their fight is the first fight, they will leave. So you tend to get half of the crowd not be there for the main event.
It'll thin out throughout the night.
What I want to do is I want to be able to sell the event without even releasing a fight poster. I want to go and watch Demolition Fight Series. Not I want to go and see, and Troy Fermo or Corey. I want gyms to go, you know what, I'll put up a poster and get them go. And I think, there is one, Hex do that. People go to Hex not just to watch fighters. They go to watch and shout out to those guys as well. XFC is the same. But at the amateur level, you're only selling tickets to people that are in the industry. And that's pretty much what I'm working on. Hence the reason we are doing Pro-Am. We're not just doing amateur. I want to grow the sport that, people drive past the Sunshine, see a poster, Demolition's on, don't even care who's fighting. They just know that it's a quality show and they come to see it. And the better promotions in Australia are already doing that. And look, if I can I'm not there yet, but if I can become half as good as them, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, that's been a thing that's been on my mind ever since I started delving into the MMA world. How do we get more guys at the show? How do we get, the corporate suit and tie who's, just finished work in the city. How do we get them interested?
Yep.
How do we get the average Joe who likes to watch sports, footy, soccer, whatever? How do we get them interested into MMA?
Get them to one show.
But how do you get them to that one show?
So
we've got to change the marketing angle in this industry. We need to, I don't know, chop it, change it, maybe get some experts and do something, because
the cage scares people. They look at the cage.
You think that taboo's still
there?
And
they don't understand. Like, when I first started this, I had to actually talk people through the safety of having the cage. They look at cages, a little bit of human cockfighting.
Yeah.
And once I say, if I bring and I had to discuss this with the Sunshine Club, is it would be better if it was a ring. And I said, so you want to have people fly out? I said, it's not there for any other reason than safety. I think early days the UFC didn't help us because they were putting on people bleeding and elbows and all that sort of stuff. And that was great because that was their angle. But there's that residual effect that people look at the UFC and MMA and they think meathead, they think blood, they think the cage, and they don't understand that the cage is there for safety.
100% it's there for safety. Like, I've seen some crazy fights where people have flown out of the rings.
Yep.
And, the initial concussion is bad enough. You don't want a second one coming out of the...
Correct. So to answer your question, the exposure for amateurs and getting... what I tended to do was I invited a lot of people from not just the MMA world, but AFL world. And I've got a lot of friends outside MMA, and they've been to one event. A lot of people bought, so shout out to those guys, they bought tables. They've all returned. So most of the tables that we sold at Demolition 1, I didn't even have to reach out. They were texting me saying, when's the next fight? Yeah. Now, they're not UFC fans. Guess what? They've just rang me up and said, hey, are you getting a fight this weekend? And they want to come to my house. So I think that's the bit we all have to look outside our, we call them casual fans or common fans. Yeah. But guess what? If we're going to grow the sport, they need to be a massive part of that.
That's where the money is.
Yeah. And I hate when people go, have you fought? What? Because I haven't fought, my opinion doesn't matter. And that actually turns people off coming to the sport because they feel like, oh, well, maybe I'm not wanted there because they don't understand the sport. So it's really up to everybody to educate these guys. And you do get the odd peanut. I obviously help run MMA Freaks, and we've got 21,000. So you get the odd 5% that are just in there to troll, which you've seen. Yeah. And you obviously run your own, which is MMA Forum Australia. Yep. So if you're watching, give them a look.
Yeah, jump on MMA Forum. We haven't actually played that yet. Thank you much for reminding me. I completely agree. Like, I put this podcast on to get more attention.
Yep.
And it does work because people that are on my personal page on social media that follow me, I get a phone call like, oh, bro, you're doing that UFC stuff. No, I'm not doing it. I support it. Oh, when's there a fight? Can I come? Yeah, of course you come. There you go. There's 3 tickets. There's 3 extra guys and the best way to advertise is word of mouth. He's going to be like, I went to a fight and I saw this guy do this move and he pulled his arm and then he cranked his head and then he did this. Yeah. And it's just going to grow and grow and grow. And we're already a nation that's excelling rapidly at MMA.
Yep.
Like we've had
a few champions already.
Yeah, we've got a few champions already.
Robbie will get his back. He will get his back one day.
He will. He's one of my favourite fighters of all time. I do want to see him get it back. But we're young.
Yep.
We're a young country already, but we're young at the sport of MMA. And we've grown really rapidly compared to countries that have been
that along with time. New Zealand. Look, they've got Izzy. We've got Alex.
Yeah. We're still better
than New Zealand.
I'm so behind Oz. That cricket competitiveness we've got, the Australia, New Zealand, that's follows through for me for MMA.
It's a couple of weeks to UFC New Zealand. I'm going over there. Can't wait. There's so many Aussies on it. It'll feel like Australia. So I've been to the first 2 events in New Zealand. Spark Arena is amazing. It is extremely loud. It's like having a UFC at Margaret Court. It is just on top of each other. So looking forward to that.
They're very, very advanced in MMA as well. Like you say, like especially as a city kickboxing.
City kickboxing.
That place just they just.
Imagine going and train there every day and get your head punched in. Nah, I'll pass.
Nah. Well, who would be our equivalent, do you think?
We're pretty much spread out, but you'll have a look at
Dad's armies out there.
But they're all together. Like Metamorphica train with this, train with that, and even when you're matching, you can't put certain gyms against each other because they've come at it and they don't all train in the same spot, but they train.
So there's a lot of cross
alliances. It's you know, the Boneyard was originally at Renegade, and Renegade's in with you know, Resilience. So that group there are together. So there's a lot of people that actually train. And if you want to look at any gym that's probably their size, well, actually bigger, absolute.
Yeah, well,
Simon Carson's gym. So he's got 2, and they've got that many fighters and elite fighters.
Yeah. Like you said, though, there's a lot of guys doing, you know, cross camps, going to other gyms and so forth.
Adrenaline's another one that's got some absolute killers as well.
Like even Troy's training out of, what was it, Pro Fitness. He's doing
John Donahue.
John Donahue.
He's main one.
And then he's doing pads with Peter Haddon.
Yep.
Now he's mixing it all up. But that's the beauty of it. Like, that's the kind of people martial artists are.
Yeah.
Our scene is very respect-based, cares about each other. Everyone helps each other. And there's not that much I in the
When you look just on where I am, I'm in Bacchus Marsh, and you look at Melton, Metamorphica, you've got Westside, you've got Infinite and Ballarat, you've got the guys from Geelong coming down that are training with Rich Pool. If they all join together, you know, then maybe they'd be as big as Absolute. But the community is so respectful, and they all help each other, which is amazing. You don't see Carlton going to Richmond and them training in each other. But in MMA, that's what they do.
Definitely not. Now, do you want to say thank you to anybody? Do we have any sponsors or?
I shouted them out, obviously yourself, Rogue Inc. and True Value Homes. I've got some other small ones, Hollywood Plumbing, Shape It Fitness. There's a few more out there, so if I've missed you, apologies, but I'm sure I'll at 6 posts and annoy everyone with your stuff all over it.
Anybody that wants to get involved with the show?
Yep. So if you're a fighter and you want to nominate, hit up Brian Ebersole or contact the page directly. I'm the one that actually answers. So if you do want to nominate, our next show after April is in October. So we're going to have a 6-month break. But yeah, we'll be back in October as well. April's pretty much full. But again, get your nomination in, because the good thing about putting in your nomination is you've got Brian Ebersole's contact, and he doesn't just matchmake for us, he does matchmake for XFC as well. So if you do want to nominate, reach out. If you want tickets, inbox the page, hit up your favourite fighter. The online link will be up next week.
And we'll be at the show as well. We'll be there with our stall.
Yep.
So you'll be able to get some Fight Kingdom.
Hopefully you don't have to be on the cage this time. You can sell some product.
Well, hopefully I want to be next to the cage, actually. I'll get someone else to look after the stall. The fights, it's going to be a cracking night of fights. Like, I'm actually more excited for that event, Demolition 2, correct?
Demolition 2, yep.
Demolition 2 is more exciting for me than, you know, all these UFC events coming up, because from what I saw at the first show, and I know who's fighting on this show, what's going to happen, it's going to be an absolute cracking event. Yep. Now, before we go, I want to thank you for coming on. Absolutely fantastic having you here. It's always good having a chat. We are looking to expand the podcast. We've got another 10 guests lined up. So the MMA community has been really responsive with us.
I was surprised you had me on, because I'm just a little promoter out of Bacchus Marsh. So thank you for reaching out. It was a little bit humbling, because I thought, who really wants to listen to that?
I love having a yarn with you, and it's good to spend time and, you know,
talk about MMA.
Talk about MMA, because that's pretty much all I talk about. And if people don't talk about MMA, I get bored. Yeah. So the show is growing, and we're looking to upgrade. So, guys, you can obviously see, you can probably hear us pretty clearly, you can see us clearly, but we're going to take it to the next level. We're going to upgrade our studio equipment. We're going to get better mics. We're going to get better cameras. We're going to get better equipment. And so what we're looking for a sponsor for the show. Now, we've been approached by a couple of people. If you are interested, we will plug you at the start of the show. We'll plug you in the middle of the show. We're reaching in the thousands for each show now. So I'm pretty humbled. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening to my very humble opinion. And, so you'll be in the background. We'll get you out there. We'll work together. We can grow together, support your business while you support us. So And all the people watching out there, thank you very much for listening. It's been a fun ride, and we're only going to get bigger and better. And we'll see you at Demolition.
17 fights, 4 pros, 13 amateur, 2 female fights, a couple of pro debuts. Don't miss it.
Thank you very much, Wayne. See you next time.